Rhyne, welcome to the show here. We are just a couple weeks away from your second WNBA season, and right now you're in Italy. So first, we need to talk about how the season there is going and how you're feeling right now.
It's going great actually. We just reached the final series, so we're in the Italian championships against Bologna, who also has my teammate Cheyenne. So that'll be great. But it's been a long season, and we're just happy that we've made it this far.
Absolutely. And this has been a whirlwind, I think, of a year for you. I mean, just about a year ago, right, was the draft. You went from Kentucky to Atlanta and then immediately to Italy. So do you feel ready to go back into another W season? Are you wishing you had a little bit of a break? Like how's your mental right now?
Um, right now I feel pretty prepared. I've been taking care of my body, getting treatment.
Mhm.
Over here it's like you have to focus on that because it's really big. You don't have the same type of stuff you have in the States. And so I'm assuming that coach will give me a few days when I get back, but my love for the game will probably, get me back in it as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And what has been the biggest difference? A lot of W players talk about that transition from the draft from college to the pros is really, really quick. So, what was the biggest difference for you going from college to the W and then the W to overseas? Like, what were the toughest parts about those transitions?
I think from college to W was, it was quick. We didn't, our class didn't have as much time as this class has because it was like we had to be there ASAP. Um, but along with that, it was just the physicality. And so then from the W to over here, it kind of prepared me, but they'll put people in just to, foul you, just to be physical with you, just to toughen you up, to take you out of your game. But I think I've done well with adjusting to that
Mhm.
style of play, and I'll be able to, use it going forward in all of my years.
So, last season, I mean, there was a lot of hype around you, first round pick, first draft overall. You immediately go to the Dream, and the expectation that, they brought you on to make an immediate impact. And you did. There was no doubt about that. You earned Rookie of the Year. Did you know that your impact was going to be that big?
Actually, I mean, I knew that, expectations would be high,
Mhm.
as it would be for anyone who's coming in at number one or even coming in and making the team, period. But um, I didn't expect it to be as much of a way as it was. But, my coaches and, my teammates, they were always with me like every step of the way. So it wasn't like weighing me down. It was more like
Mhm.
we all had the weight as a collective.
Yeah. And so you guys had this really consistent mindset last year. Where did that come from? Was it the vets that brought that? Was it the coaching staff? Where did that really stem from?
It came from Coach C. It was her first year there as well. And so when she came in, we had our meeting before training camp. She set the tone right then and there. And, we were all like, okay, like we can get behind that. And, she's done big things that we all want to do and we all want to accomplish. And so we had no, other reason to not want to follow her lead. And so, when she did that, we were all like, okay, like let's do it. We got things to accomplish. We got goals to reach and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And what was the biggest lesson you learned from some of the veterans on the team?
I would say, you know, just don't dwell on, what happened in the past. You never lose, you always learn. So
I love that. My dad says that all the time, and I roll my eyes when he says it. And I'm like, you're kind of right, though.
we did just lose, but I guess.
And so I want to bring it back to kind of your upbringing in the sport because you found it early. Your mom was your coach. You played with your brother. Do you think that you'd be where you are today if you didn't have if the passion wasn't kind of born from your family?
I don't think so
Mhm.
because when I was younger, I played pretty much every other sport. And so basketball always was the favorite just because everybody in my family had played and everybody had such a high opinion on it and like pushed for, me to always come back to that. And like
Mhm.
whatever other sport I did, it was for basketball, like track was to stay in shape for basketball. So I definitely think that, if I didn't have that, like experience from my family, then it wouldn't be. But I don't know.
Do you ever lean on your mom now for pointers or for like if something happens, or is it strictly like I like to call them emotional support moms?
It just depends. Sometimes I'll be like, what am I doing? Like, I'll look up at her in the stands. Like, I always have to know where she's sitting. I'll look up at her and she's like, if my shot's off, she's like, you're shooting flat or like blah, blah. But sometimes like she knows if I don't want to hear it, then she's just there for emotional support.
Well, that's amazing to have someone who recognizes when you need what. You also, I know, go back to Lexington. How do you think that your experience in Kentucky shaped the player that you are?
You had coaches like LZ and Mitchell and Butts and Coach Amber Smith. Three out of those four had, been around Pat Summitt. So they've obviously seen great players. They've obviously learned how to coach great players, played with other great players. And so I knew that listening to them and just working hard and always taking in what they're telling me instead of like taking it in, letting it go out, how you usually do when somebody's, your nerves, but just taking that in and using it and always being receptive to what they had to say and what they see and always, being the first one to ask for help. Like, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to keep getting better at? And just using that and taking it with me.
Talking about being receptive, I think that's something that can be really challenging, especially in your rookie season, right? Because there's this balance between learning and growing, but also kind of showing up and being like, I know what I'm doing. I'm good. So how do you balance kind of this, I don't want to call it arrogance, but this confidence, maybe this confidence, and then the humility to be really good, but also to learn to get better, if that makes sense.
Yes. So this year, like, obviously I believe in myself that I could do a lot more than what I did, but I didn't want to take away from what we had as a team. So if I felt like I could, play one-on-one, then I would do it. And then everybody be like, okay, cool, cool, cool. Or if something that happened, I'd be like, all right, like, let's move the ball more. And then I would come back to it after, everybody's touched the ball or something like that.
That's amazing. That's every coach's dream, is to have a player like that. I also read, talking about your team and the chemistry. Haley Jones is coming to join you guys. I know that you guys are buddies. And she also said you have your handshake picked out, and you have one with everyone on the team. Is that true?
Yes.
Tell me more about this. Where does this come from?
So it came from being over here, actually, but I do like to have handshakes. I feel like it creates an extra bond with your teammates that you can take to the court just to show that you're with them and not just, I'm just strictly here for basketball with you. Like, we're sisters now. Like, we're part of a family away from your other family. And so I knew that I would have handshakes for everybody. And so I just took the time to just go ahead and start coming up with it, because I knew once I got to Atlanta, it'd be quick.
I love that. Do you have a favorite one, or can you not tell us? Because can we not pick favorites here?
Do I have a favorite? I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll revisit this and then I'll tell you if I have a favorite.
Amazing. I'm going to hold you to that. I also, so like you mentioned there, is that I feel like a unique thing about the W is that most players have the passion for the game. They're good, they're successful, you're doing what you're doing, but there's also these outside interests that you all have, and you're exploring those and you're sharing those. A couple questions here, but first, what's your favorite way to spend time with your teammates off the court?
Just really whatever. I just love to be around my teammates. So, if we want to go, last year for my birthday, like, it was my birthday, and then a few days later it was Erica Willer and Monique Billings' birthday. So we all went bowling. Like, this is before we even had a team set. And so it was just great to go out and, go ahead and build that chemistry. But, we could go see a movie. We could go hang out at somebody's house. I know Mo's already invited people over to her house. Just anything that you're doing to build bonds, really.
I love that. And then I also saw that you're an artist, and I want to know more about that. What type of art, and where did that passion come from?
Mainly drawing. I don't like to color my drawings in, fun fact.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Like, I already did the hard part. Like, I'll give it to somebody else to color, but 9 times out of 10, I will not be coloring it. but I do like to paint sometimes, or I do like to do like physical art, like diamond painting or something like that. Um, I just always been in that, especially like when I was younger, I was really big into origami. And so I would always be like folding paper. I'd make my mom buy the little origami squares and just like make a whole bunch of different stuff. And so then like that's just where it came from.
I
I would
love
go
that.
on YouTube and like watch videos and stuff.
Is it relaxing for you? Is this like a way to unwind and de-stress?
Yes.
Okay.
Because like when you're doing that, you're in your own little world. Like you don't hear anything outside, or just
Mhm.
you can put some music on or something, but just some alone time.
That's awesome. And so what are you drawing? Like what?
Um,
Like people, animals, plants?
I don't like plants. That's an, I don't like flowers. I don't like plants, but I will draw them. But that's not my favorite. But
Mhm.
most of the time, I'm probably drawing cartoons just because they're quicker and easier.
Okay. What's your favorite SpongeBob character to draw?
I'll probably say Sandy,
Okay.
not SpongeBob. I always get frustrated when I draw SpongeBob.
So bringing it back to the W and to the league and specifically to the dream, I know in your Players Tribune piece that you said when it clicks, it's going to be scary. What will it take for, or what will it mean for it to click this season for you guys?
I think this year, like we have that experience. You know, last year was a bunch of firsts for everybody. And
Mhm.
so this year we have a bunch of players that know what he's looking for, a bunch of players that have played together. And so I feel like this year is going to be the year. But to each its own. If people want to keep looking everywhere else, they can keep looking everywhere else. But I think this year is going to be huge for us. I can feel the chemistry that we already have, even through the group chats that we have.
Who is the funniest on your group chat?
Me, I'm
You.
the funniest.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I was texting in a group, like just a random thought. I was like, would y'all make fun of me if I wore my heelys in the airport? They were all
Did
like,
you?
no, I wouldn't make fun of you, but just don't fall.
Yeah, right. Don't fall. Don't go or get best player hurt. So are you gonna wear your Heelys in the airport?
Yeah, probably, because it just be a lot of walking sometimes.
Hey, I see people, on their scooters in the city here, and I'm like, you've got something like that's the way to do it.
That's smart.
As someone who had a very successful rookie season, what is your best piece of advice to these players as they come in to start their professional career?
I would say, everyone is just as good as you are now. And so it's going to be way harder than, what you've seen in college. People are going to actually want to pick on you because you're a rookie. And so whatever you are doing, don't stray away from that. Keep doing it, keep getting better at it, while also getting better at your weaknesses too, because those are going to be heightened. Like they're going to come out more, especially with like, it's only 144 spots in the W. So people are going to study you like the back of their hands, and they're going to make sure that you are on your P's and Q's.
And so how do you maintain consistency and like not get too high and not get too low in those moments, knowing that there are people that are studying you, and if there's a tough game and something doesn't go as you want, how do you stay here instead of the roller coaster?
When I was in high school, actually, my high school coach, Jason Reuter, he would always say, your low is not as low as it seems, and your high is not as high as it seems.
Mm.
So whenever you're high, like you can always get higher. Whenever you're low, you can always get lower, but you don't want to do that.
That's a really great piece of advice. Did it click in the moment then in high school, or is that something that you reflect back on and understand now?
I think I understand it more now than I did because, you know, it's funny that I mentioned him because he always had a whole bunch of sayings. Most of his sayings consisted of like, don't just stand there like you're standing there like a bump on a pickle, or like, don't get the cart in front of the horse, like just stuff like that. But when he did decide to do like some meaningful ones, it was be stuff like that.
And your jersey was retired at your high school. What was that moment like for you?
It was just great. First, it was just great to be back because like that was when I was in college. You don't get a lot of breaks, and so just to
Mhm.
be able to get a break and go back and when it's a rival game, see your jersey get put in the rafters is great. And especially with, the love that I have and the love that everybody in that city has for me. It just felt very warm and felt like I was still there and will always still be there.
Yeah. And you absolutely will. And I know that you're making them proud. And, just here too for you here, what are your goals? You earned Rookie of the Year, huge accomplishment. Do you have personal goals for this year and then beyond in the league?
Yeah, so obviously the next step would be, MVP. They don't do like a second year player of the year. So next step will obviously be, MVP, or even if I can't do that, it'd be like first team WNBA or defensive team. But I like to do my goals based off how we do as a team, because obviously, like most of the times, they won't look at you if your team's not succeeding. And so all of my goals will be based on however I can help my team.
We mentioned off the top that you're in Italy right now and you're playing overseas. Do you think that this is something that you'll do again? Do you think that you'll stay back in the States next year? Does AU sound appealing? Athletes Unlimited sound appealing at all? Kind of what's your take on that right now?
I know for sure next year I will be taking a break. As far as overseas, I'm kind of more on the no side, but I feel like I'd be more open to like a partial season. And I'm not sure about AU yet.
Yeah.
It looks
you don't have
fun.
to make any commitments now. We're focused on one season at a time. We're going into 2023. That's all we care about right now. Curious, when you look at this season, how will you measure success?
Success, our season compared to our season the year before, not how we do against any other team. It's always us against us.
When you look back on your career, and when I mean career, I mean growing up in high school and college, not just this last year, but are there moments that you look back on that you remember saying or thinking, this is the end, or I can't do this anymore, and now you have gratitude when you look back on those moments?
Yeah, I think my junior year of college was very tough for me. I think I was a little bit depressed. And so like I got to a point where I didn't want to play, and I just like, it was just so much pressure being put on me, like from everywhere, like inside the room, outside the room, like everywhere is being pressure put on me. And, everybody was just like, well, you need to keep going. Like, you need to keep doing this. And like, it had very few people actually saying like, are you okay? And, being on that team, I was a leader. And so they're all looking at me as well. So I couldn't really, have a bad day. But now that I look back at it, it definitely, for my senior year, it showed me how resilient I am and how like I can always push through. Like it could have been much worse. Like now that I look back at it, it could have been much worse than what it was. But I ended up getting through it.
So how do you protect your mental health now?
Now I, like, if you aren't in my circle, like if you aren't around me, aren't trying to help me, then I really don't care what you have to say. And
Amen to that.
I try not to get on a lot of social media. Like I'll get on every now and then, but everybody's always like, well, you need to be more socially active. So I'll get on there just for a little bit. But back then, like I couldn't go on it because, I would get into reading the comments and doing all this and wanting to interact. But now, like, if you're not with me, you're against me. Simple as that.
I love that. I love that perspective. You're dishing out some good stuff here, Rhyne. I love it. Finally, looking at the league and how it's grown in just the last few years and kind of the trajectory that it's on right now is great. What do you think is the biggest misconception about the league for people, who aren't familiar with it?
I think that, because we're still on the up and up and that we don't get a lot of TV time, I think people are like thinking that it's like super boring and like not interesting at all. Like we just go out there very fundamental, do whatever. But then, somebody new always watches like, oh my gosh, like this is my first time watching that. I loved it so much. I feel like that's really it because, a lot of people around me think that women's basketball is, more entertaining than men's because, you have people that actually want to play defense. You have people that actually, they can be shifty, they can score. Like the only thing we can't do that the men can do is dunk. So
I couldn't agree with everything that you just said more. And I will tell you the amount of people that watched March Madness, that watched the W last year would come up and say, they're like more skilled than the men. And I was like, yeah, yeah. When little girls watch you play and come up to you and say, I want to be like you, Rhyne. I want to play for Kentucky. I want to play in the WNBA. How does that make you feel? Like, do you recognize the impact that you're having on this next generation?
yes, it feels very heartwarming, and it like as soon as they say that, where like they have their headband upside down, they're like having my little shirt on. I'm like, come on, let's take a picture. But it's just great. And then, their parents always come up and like, she's always in the gym. Like she always watches all of your games. She, has all of this. I'm like, that is great. And you are a great parent for, supporting our dreams.
It's really fun to see parents supporting them too. Because I know just about every player that I talk to credits their family for the support. And so to see parents then encouraging them to watch you guys, to talk to you guys, to have role models like you is really awesome. Final question for you. I ask everyone this. On your tough days, what is your mantra that gets you through?
My tough days, a lot of my tough days, I just take a nap, really. But I would say, I don't know, I watch a lot of SpongeBob. So if I just watch some SpongeBob, I'll be good.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time today, Rhyne, to chat. Best of luck this season. I will certainly follow up with you about who has the favorite handshake at the end of the season.
All right. Thank you so much.